Can you hear me now? Yes. So let's go. Imagine delivering software as riding a bike. Are your brakes on or off? Are you heading in the right direction? Let's talk about DevEx. Hi, my name is Anita and I am Developer Experience Ally, Team Productivity Researcher, Workspace Data Analyst, and the CEO at Network Perspective. And I'm also hosting regularly on a monthly basis DevEx talks with heads of engineering from the US top tech companies, and together with John Kern, co-author of Agile Manifesto. And I would love to share with you lessons I've learned. The first one, measuring is about optimizing. So let's start with DORA. It's been a while with us. And it's all about measuring deployment frequency, lead time for changes, change failure rate, and time to restore service. It was created by the DevOps team, and it was created to measure the delivery process at that output stage, I would say, and optimizing the systems, like integrating them or making them running faster. Then there is a developer productivity trend as a kind of evolution. And it's all about measuring speed, ease, and quality of work and satisfaction across specific topics. Here you can see the developer productivity metrics at 17 tech companies. And for example, if you have a code review process, you measure speed. So you are more specific about specific issues or topics, and you try to somehow measure the speed. In code review process, it is how fast the code review is done. Also ease, so how easy it is for a developer to run code review, and the quality, feedback quality. And then we have the developer experience trend. And here the measuring is about measuring day-to-day brakes and accelerators among dev teams. So it's more about measuring inputs to your delivery process and optimizing experiences. It's how the game changed. And as an example, let's take a look at DevEx formula at GitHub. So developer experience overall is about developer productivity, developer impact, and satisfaction, all that multiplied by collaboration. The key question is, how can you measure and improve that? How can you measure and improve how quickly or simply a change can be made to a code base, or how frictionless it is to move from idea to production? How the environment, workflows, and tools affect developer happiness, or how do you measure collaboration? And the answer as baseline is quite simple. Ask your developers. Here you can see the DevEx drivers. So delivering a software is not only about code quality or testing and reliability, that outputs are measured by DORA. The inputs are about technical depth, code base, test quality, efficiencies. There are many input factors that as output you can measure with DORA, but there is so much more around it. I am talking with many heads of engineering and they are telling me, our operational efficiency is great. We have great bikes, but we have real challenge in defining the direction. Or we have real challenge in defining the quality of what we do for users. And it's also about work experiences while coding, or just how productive you feel as a developer, and it's also about collaboration. So let's take a look at the second big lesson I've learned. Optimizing experiences is a bit different game than optimizing systems. Let's take a look at technical debt example. You can simply ask your developers about technical debt. Our technical debt doesn't slow down our work much. Do you agree or not? And let's take a look what Google found out. They measure technical debt with surveys, but also with over 100 metrics from engineering log data. How surprised they were that no single metric predicted reports on technical debt from surveys. And right now, it is the survey response is leading metric for tech debt now at Google. Because it's not the optimizing and the question if our technical debt is too big or is good enough. It's not about how much of technical debt do we have. It's about, does it slow down my work? And also Google, when they tried to understand what happened when they compared the data from surveys and engineering logs, they are reasoning the way that engineers' judgments about technical debt concern both the present state and the possible state. And what's the lesson I've learned from this case? That developers' estimates on complex issues are often more accurate, and what's even more important, actionable than system log metrics, leading dev teams to trust and act on them more readily. I am hearing it very, very often from Miro or Pipedrive that engineers do not trust log metrics because they are not the ones generating them. And you can trust the data from surveys, or you can really put a huge effort in cleaning the data from log systems and customizing it to the way different teams work. So let's take a look at another example, CI/CD. So you can ask your developers, our CI/CD tools are fast and reliable. Do you agree or not? You can also ask open-ended question and hear that, for example, there is a huge queue and I have to wait a long time for my builds. What's worse for me, it's unpredictable. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes build time, sometimes it's an hour. And that's the case of dev experts when I was talking with Dmitry Dobrenev. And they listened to their developers and started monitoring queue size, like as a proxy to measure build time predictability. And it became their North Star metrics. Because for their developers, it's much more important to know exactly that the build time will take half an hour every time rather than waiting sometimes 5 minutes and sometimes 55 minutes. What's the lesson I learned here? What do you optimize, systems or developer experience? If you answer that question in terms of CI/CD pipeline, if it's your delivery system and you optimize for the system, or it's all about the touch points for your developer experience, if you answer that question, then you play a slightly different game in terms of measuring it. Let's take a look at another example, direction. So you can ask your developers. Project goals and requirements are easy to understand. At YouTube, when I was talking with Chas, he told me that join latency as a key factor in user experience is one of the top level OKRs. And why is that? Because they all agree that this is the leading indicator of top user experience when you expect that the video is going to be loaded under 1 second. That's the boom, that's where the magic is happening. So they agree that this is the key metric, and they also agree on a threshold not to be crossed and a goal to reduce it. And then all the other performance metrics are next. What's the lesson learned here? User experience data serve as a good flag in the distance, guiding dev teams in the right direction. So, how about deep work? You can ask your developers, I get enough deep work time to regularly focus on complex tasks. That's the case at Adaptavist. They used quite sophisticated tool to measure and reduce meetings overload and context switching with real-time data. They unlocked extra 2 hours weekly, and people started using it for task improving daily productivity. Lesson learned here, more time for deep work serves not only as an enabler for team dev productivity, but also internal DevEx improvements. How about empowerment? You can ask your developers. I can influence priorities and tasks in our team. At Atlassian, empowerment was really important to make the changes happening. So the top team just told the developers, hey guys, you are empowered to spend 10% of your weekly time to make working what makes your day-to-day work hard. And the magic started happening. So the Confluence team, they doubled the number of pull requests deployed in 48 hours in a quarter, and Trello team reduced 24,000 of lines of unused code. Because those on the ground, they experience pains and know priorities best. And lesson learned here, dev teams love fixing things. They just need the time and what's even more important, green light to do so. So what's the next and the last lesson? Sometimes you simplify to amplify. What does it mean? Simplify what to amplify what? So basically, why are we measuring things? We are not measuring things just to measure them. We are measuring things to have the measure, act, learn cycle. So measure things to know what's not working and what's working, to act on them and learn while measuring again if we have a success. So what do you simplify? Very often you simplify the measure part. So for example, in terms of surveys, you really simplify the way you are measuring things. How you measure things, it's simplified. But what do you amplify? If you are asking your developers what's great, what's good enough, what's bad, and why is it bad, then you amplify what you measure. You measure experiences, you measure more holistically the whole delivery process, you are measuring inputs, roadblocks, and many other things. What do you amplify? The act, learn cycle. And I hear really, really often and see really, really often that people do not put attention on that. They even do not always distribute the measuring numbers, the numbers they measure directly to teams. So when you amplify the act, learn cycles in terms of surveys, you ask how to improve and you agree or give the empowerment, let's do it and check again. You amplify also understanding of what you are measuring across developers, the trust to the numbers, alignment, because you have the voice of the whole team with the results and actions. Next, of course, you add a data log for feedback loop, alerts, and other things. And what's beyond? I would say, let's imagine your delivery process as experience cycle. There is an experience cycle from developer to user. And that's how you build high-performing delivery. Those on the ground feel the pains and priorities best. They know what's not working, and they want to improve that. And there is also an experience cycle from user to developer. And that's the flag in the distance when you start using user experience data and distribute it across developers for high-quality delivery. Thanks.
Any questions to the presentation?
So the 10% time that Atlassian gave the developers, was that like forever or was that just for a fixed period of time?
Hello, well, yeah. It was for a fixed period of time. It was an initiative, but they are right now considering to make it long, like working long run. But I'm hearing it very often that, like, when I was talking with one engineering manager that is really amplifying this measure, act, learn cycle within his teams. He was telling me that you need the empowerment, right, to spend some time in your team to improve things. And the first thing you need to realize is that you as a manager is the one you need to give the empowerment first. So I can give my team the 10% of time. I can invest in this 10% of time for improvements. And this guy is doing it for years.
Also about this 10%, were they coordinating which initiatives they do? Because I think that, okay, let's give everybody 10% budget for fixing things, yeah? And we have 5 teams. Were they checking if team A and team B were not working on the same issue? Or somehow controlling what they do with this 10%? Because it sounds like a nice idea, but it may lead to local optimizations, not global optimization. Were they aligned with somehow?
So they were sharing the knowledge, the experiences, what they do, but it was not, coordinated top-down. And like teams are quite good also in knowing what can be done bottom-up at the team level, and if this local optimization makes sense, and what should be leveled up. So, for example, if we ask developers to think about improvements in one area, we are asking them what can be done at the team level, but also what should be leveled up. And there are different things that you can do, and people are quite good in knowing what makes sense.
How many developers and how many teams were involved in this initiative?
So the whole Confluence team and Trello team, it's, I don't know, but hundreds of developers. Like it was org-wide initiative, and there were hundreds of developers involved.
You presented us with GitHub's equation for developer, not efficiency, but developer experience.
Yeah.
This is a purely GitHub base because GitHub is built around developers. Then again, most companies think in the terms of developer efficiency. Could you, if feasible, could you elaborate how would you change the equation and how would you measure the efficiency of developers from a company's perspective? I mean, to make it a more direct question, companies ask how quickly can we launch? How can we launch with less issues? How can we launch with less lines of code, whatever, with less people? But then again, these are difficult to translate into actual developer experience. Could you help with that?
So the DevEx formula at GitHub was about developer experiences. It was about the inputs in your delivery process. What your developers are experiencing in terms of tools, processes, and team dynamics, where are the friction points and what is working well? It's input to day-to-day developer work, right? And then you have outputs. So you have efficiency, as you named it. And I would say most common way to measure efficiency, it's very similar to DORA metrics. So you measure the deployment frequency, for example, change failure rate. But this is how you treat outputs. And the beauty and the evolution that was made between the DORA and developer productivity to DevEx is mainly about because there are so many companies that are already measuring DORA developer productivity, but nothing is changing, right? So they started to figuring out what can be done further. So how can we focus on inputs to provide better outputs? And that is what developer experience movement and measurement is about.
Your personal favorite way of measuring and handling developers' productivity?
I would say it is like you can measure, like we were already talking about it, the DORA metrics as developer productivity. But what DORA metrics are telling you, they are telling you if developers are building code fast, basically, and reliable, right? And the question is it your way and your understanding of building the great software, or is it a way of understanding of building the software fast and reliable? And I think that, and what I hear really often is that the missing puzzle is about what we are building. It's about the direction. So highly productive developer, and I hear it both from top leadership and from developers, that the good code is not about the code that you built, with very high speed. It's not about the code that you build that is bugs free. It's the code that provides real value to your users. And it's very often the missing puzzle in how you understand the developer productivity. And I think the way at YouTube is a great example of how you can treat it differently. So you have goals for your dev teams, but those goals are around the exact user experience that you would like to keep, right? Load your video under 1 second. And everything their teams are doing with their lower level goals is about that one thing. If we are talking about the teams at YouTube responsible for the performance, right? But this top level metric that is reflecting the real experiences your users have, it's a great way of measuring the real value for your users, if you are highly productive or not. And you can run as a dev team 100 experiments if you are going closer to this goal, or what you build are making the experiences of your user worse. And I would say that's the best way of measuring things. Reflect the goals of your teams with user experience data, and then let the teams solve the problems and figuring out how to do it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Anita. Please have a round of applause. And